when did you originally start? It was early 2000s or even 2000, wasn't it? Or
Yeah, so my first fight was June 10, 2000. So
okay.
yeah, 20 years ago.
And so what originally got you into, I guess, I know you're showing your age now, but what
And
originally
yours.
what originally got you into mixed martial arts? Because I mean, look, now martial arts is kind of like some claim mainstream, some are still saying it's not quite there yet. I mean, we're definitely there, but
Yeah.
in the early 2000s, it I mean, the money wasn't really there. The kind of like it had a stigma around it and stuff like that. So, what originally got you, I guess, into the world of mixed martial arts?
Well, I really lucked into it. So I'd wrestled my whole life, and I remember there was a summer where I was riding across town to play with mates, football or baseball or whatever it was, right? And I ended up coming across a group of guys playing basketball, and they were competitive. Not all of us were good, you know what I mean? Like we all had like at least a strong point. You know, the guy that couldn't shoot the ball could at least play defense or rebound, or Dennis Rodman or something, right? And the guy that couldn't get a rebound could at least hit a set shot if no one was in his face, kind of thing. But maybe he couldn't dribble to save his life. So it was always like fun, like picking teams and doing all that. But I ended up grouping in with these guys, and because they were competitive, I really made an effort to get out to their neighborhood all the time and try to play over the summer. And come to find out, a couple of them trained martial arts. So there was like Taekwondo. One guy did Kempo, and it was a bit more like old school, like Merake boards, and just a bit tougher. He had hard shins. Another guy was actually kind of a point fighting competitor and like traveled and did a bit of it. Had some big trophies in the garage and things like that. So the UFC had come out, and a couple of the other guys like started drifting in, wanting to do the grappling and be playful. Like obviously we're not going to go hit each other. You know, we're 15 to 18 years old at the time. So it became like a grappling thing that we started. You know, we play basketball, we grapple. We play basketball, we grapple. And because I wrestled, it was actually the point fighting guy that showed like the first sign of like, I'm frustrated. Like, can't win a match. Like, you'd never take me down before I could hit you. So the age old argument of like, you can't take me down, even though you've trained your entire life to take people down that know the only thing you're trying to do is take them down, and they defend themselves from only the takedown, and they stand a certain way and they move a certain way, and they put in a lot of hours. But yes, of course, your upright kickboxing stance is going to be something new to me. Okay, so we did that whole experiment, and I took him down a fair few times, and we got that over with. And then it turned into more like back to the collaborative. Like, all right, well, how about I try to box you playfully and you try to wrestle me? And I knew like if I went for Ham and he's never wrestled, it's going to be really awkward because even though I'm not good, I'll hit him eventually. So it was very playful for me. And then he'd try to wrestle, and I tried to stay playful because if I wanted to put my hips down, I probably could have. I was an 18-year-old kid, that 17-year-old kid never wrestled. So it became like a playful, like back and forth, and we'd be watching fights, trying to break things down. And we didn't have like a John Danaher around. You know what I mean? So we're just trying arm bars and throwing up triangles and doing our thing. And eventually, when I went off to college, Matt Hughes was my wrestling coach. He was an assistant coach at Eastern Illinois University. And there ended up being something about that room. I don't know what it was, but we were not like Iowa or Oklahoma State, like where Cormier came from or where Dan Gable coached. We were just a ragtag, like ruffian group of kids that wrestled Division One, but like we were on the lower end of Division One, like a smaller school compared to like the bigger, like where Penn State and Cale Sanderson are now. Um, so we never had like the favorite in the nation. We didn't have like a bunch of All-Americans. We had scrappy guys that, if given an opportunity, could capitalize and win a match against someone they weren't supposed to beat. Um, we had a lot of fighters come out of that room. I have a heavyweight teammate that was a senior when I was a freshman. So he was grade 12, I was 9. He went off to college, and I got to wrestle 2 years with him there because, you get 5 years of college if you take one off. You call it a red shirt, and you athletically sit back for a year. So he got to the UFC before I did. funny enough, and did really well. I've got a teammate that was the PFL champion, won the $1 million tournament at middleweight. Um, 4 or 5 other guys ended up being UFC fighters out of that room. So and plenty of Bellator and the like. And the team got cut about 3 years after I was out of college anyway. So it would have been really neat to see, without any cohesive effort, none of us trained MMA together. We all went back home and did our thing and ended up separately getting into MMA. But it would have been really neat to see, like, after we set that very ad hoc, scattered legacy for that room, what would have ended up happening to that room when people go, hey, like, we don't have a bunch of all-American wrestlers, but these guys were pretty competitive and then went on to become UFC stars or Bellator stars or PFL champions. How would that have changed, like, recruiting, and how would that have changed, like, off-season wrestling? Like, wrestling's 4 or 5 months a year. What are you going to do with the other 6 or 7? Would guys have started training jiu-jitsu and boxing at a local gym? Would a gym have just popped up in the little downtown, like the quaint little downtown area? Would one of the old wrestlers have opened his own gym nearby? Like, it would have been really neat to kind of see if that program hadn't been shut down by the NCAA and, like, Title IX and trying to be equality for men and women and money coming into sports. Had that not all kind of coalesced into the cutting of a lot of wrestling programs, it would have been really cool to watch. So I kind of lucked into it with friends back home. I had my inspiration. Obviously, Matt Hughes had a fight like my freshman year, and me and my roommate went and watched him. And I ended up having my first fight in that very same gym that I went and watched Matt. But it was always going to happen. Whether or not I wrestled at EIU, I really think I still would have had a fight, because there was that burning question. Once that guy brought up the whole "you could never take me down before I hit you," what if it was like Mike Tyson? What if it was someone stockier, bigger, scarier? You know what I mean? That was saying that to me. Would I still feel confident? Would I still be eager to have a go? So there's always that lingering question of, like, okay, it works, but, like, how well does it work for me? Can I do it?